Alright guys, so we're going to talk about soil temperatures and pre-emergence and seeding and all that stuff. A lot of people try to base everything on dates, but weather's different every year. For instance, it's February and it's nice and sunny and warm right now, and it's almost time to put pre-emergent down. So what you need to do is get a thermometer, turn it on, and stick it in the ground. Now you wait until it's done. You can see, oopsie, slowly going down. Now for a pre-emergent, you want to put it down at 50 degrees. 50 degrees is a little bit early for crabgrass to germinate, which is perfect because you don't want it to germinate at all. It'll start to germinate at 55 degrees. So by putting it down at 50, you've got time for it to get into the soil. And also sometimes, if you've got a black driveway, that edge will be a little bit warmer sooner. So you get it down a little bit early and then you're good to go. All right, let's check this. We are down to 47.8. All right, so if you miss the 50 degree mark, you still want to get it down as soon as possible. Crabgrass really likes to germinate between 65 and 75 degrees. So you might not see a lot of germination at the 55 degree mark. You'll see some, but the majority of it will be later on. So you still should do it even if you're late. But if you want full coverage, you want to do it as early as possible. So around 50 to 65 degrees is when your roots for your lawn are going to be growing the most. And so it's important during that time frame that you don't go heavy on the fertilizer, because that'll start growing the actual blades instead of the roots. And so it'll miss that time, that opportunity to build up the roots in the soil. You want the roots so you can get through the summer and get all the nutrients out of the ground. Now, if you want to plant grass seed, at 60 degrees is when it's optimal for Kentucky bluegrass to be seeded, and then 70 degrees for tall fescue and perennial ryegrass. So those are the great times to seed. Now, obviously, if you're going to seed, don't put the pre-emergent down because that'll prevent it. So you're that's why I like using the starter fertilizer with weed preventer in it that has tenacity, because you're growing your grass seed at the same time as the optimal time for crabgrass to germinate. So you need some kind of defense, but don't put regular pre-emergent down if you're going to be seeding. So 60 to 75 degrees is when you're going to see the shoot growth the most. The spring flush is going to come in, and that's when you're going to want to put your first real application of fertilizer down. But you got to be careful, because if you put too much, you're going to have to mow every day, which some people are okay with, most people aren't. So you don't want to hammer it down, you just want to fertilize it. That's why I like slow release fertilizers in the spring, and then I use the nitrogen, the synthetics in the fall when it's cooling down, and that's just what I like to do. But you can use any kind of fertilizer. You just don't want to go too much in the springtime and cause crazy top growth. So what's interesting is around 70 degrees is when the root growth for Kentucky bluegrass will start to slow down, and then 80 degrees is when it stops. So if you haven't gotten your roots vigorous and growing before then, you're going to be hurting that summer. So it's important in the springtime to be watering only once a week, because if you're watering it more often than that, the roots aren't going to grow deep and vigorous. They're going to stay shallow because they can get the water there. So you need to train your roots before it gets to 80 degrees. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem on your hands. At 90 degrees, that's when the shoot growth is going to slow down and stop, and you don't want to fertilize then, because you're going to be trying to push shoot growth, and that's not good for the lawn. Now, when it comes to winter time, it's interesting because roots will continue to grow down to 33 degrees. Then after that, it stops, and it's obviously frozen. So in the fall, when you're feeding it your fall fertilizer, that's why it's important to use the synthetic fertilizer, because If you're using organic fertilizer in the fall, it's too cold for it to break down, but the synthetics gets the nitrogen to the roots, which are still growing until 33 degrees. What's also interesting is at 40 degrees, that's when the shoot growth stops. So between 40 and 33 degrees, it looks like the lawn's not doing anything, but in fact it is. It's growing its roots. So don't skip out on that fall fertilizer, and you'll be good to go the next spring. So the next question is, how deep do you put the thermometer? You want it a few inches. You don't want to go like, a foot down. Using one of these is perfect. You also don't want it right on the top, because the top is going to get warm from the sun. If you look at this, there we go. Right at the top, well, in this spot, right at the top was 50 degrees. But if you shoot it down further, you'll see it's starting to go down. That's because the top is always going to be warmer from the sun. So there you have it. There's some information about soil temperature. Yes, I use the same temperature probe for my steaks and other things. Just wash it off, It's no big deal. Alright, I appreciate you guys watching my videos. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. It's what makes this really enjoyable and fun, making all these videos. And be sure to check out the ones below. Have a great day. Bye.